हमारे पास थोड़ी है, टाइम भी नहीं है।
आपकी आवाज इसमें से क्यों आ रही है?
माइक माइक बंद रखना, माइक वीडियो सब चीज बंद रखना, कोई भी यहाँ सुन सन्नाटा होना चाहिए, फिर से डिस्टर्ब करें।
Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to this session. Let's wait for a few minutes. I think we give the rest of the participants at least another 2 minutes to start.
Yes.
You call Nabi?
आवाज गई है?
Hi, this is Adnan Khan from Sami Pharmaceuticals. Good morning.
Hi, Adnan. Good morning. We're just giving another 2 minutes more for the rest of the.
Assalamualaikum.
Sure.
Welcome to you all, everyone, at our webinar series. Am I audible to all of you?
Yes, you are audible.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are, Naveen.
Okay, thank you. So firstly, I will introduce to our organization, Institute of Biological, Biochemical and Pharmaceutical Sciences. It is basically a drug regulatory authority of Pakistan, draft approved license contract research organization of Pakistan, which is situated in a well-known healthcare organization, Dow University of Health Sciences. Dow University of Health Sciences, DUHS, is a premier medical institute named after the founder, Sir Hugh Dow, who laid in foundation in 1945. We have several services, which is We have several services such as we do a clinical trial unit for conduct of phase 1 to phase 4, clinical trials, bioequivalence, bioavailability studies, pharmacokinetic studies, bioanalytical and analytical studies, development and validation of biological test methods, reference quality control testing of APIs, finished product and impurities. We also done in vitro drug profile, comparative dissolution profile, CTP, pharmaceutical equivalence studies, etc. Basically, we have started this webinar session to exchange our knowledge, and it can be beneficial for both of the sides that we can exchange our knowledge, and whatever we know, we can ask from our professionals and technical persons. So for today, I will welcome Dr. Maria Rizvi. She's a guest speaker and a technical advisor. I will introduce Ms. Maria Rizvi. Ms. Maria Rizvi is a pharmacist by qualification and professional, having a total work experience of 26 years with both multinational and national pharma industries abroad and in Pakistan. In the early days of her career, she spent most of her time interacting with drug health authorities in Southeast Asia and CIS countries, including Pakistan. She has a catalyst of communication with the World Health Organization and PICs on GMP pre-qualification activities. She was trained in quality compliance and technical operations with different learned consultants from India, Philippines, and Canada. She has undergone training in basic pharmacovigilance from a renowned and well-known pharmacovigilance professions from the Drug Information Regulatory Agency in India. She had published abstract on awareness of pharmacovigilance in the Drug Safety Journal and reviewed them at international conference held in China, Morocco, India, and Prague. I will hand over my screen to the Dr. Maria. Dr. Maria, please continue.
Thank you so much, Naveen, for such a very hi-fi kind of introduction. Thank you so much. I would like to welcome all the participants today. Thank you for sparing this time with me. And I'll try my best to share with you whatever I know, knowledge-wise, experience-wise. You're most welcome to ask questions. And if I can reply you satisfactorily, I would do so. So now let us start with our presentation session for today. Our session for today is entitled PICs GMP Audit Observations. Now, as you have observed, there have been a lot of trainings going on relating to PICs GMP, but no one really wants to talk and discuss about what happens during the audit, before the audit, during the audit, and after the audit. So what I will be focusing on is mainly on the audit part. So what happened? Yeah. So can you please move the slide? Slideshow. Okay. So we start with the no, not the history. With the definition of what PICs is. We keep on saying PIC, PICs, PICs. There are different ways of pronouncing it. But actually, there are two abbreviations for it. One is PIC and one is PICs. So what does it mean? PICs is the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, and PIC, sorry, is the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, and PICS stands for Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme. The convention is the body that prepares all the policies and guidelines which is given to the inspectorates who are the members of the Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme. So what do? They do by providing GMP guidelines for pharmaceutical industry, mainly for sterile manufacturing pharmaceuticals. The Pharmaceutical Inspection Cooperation Scheme, PICS, was established in 1995, so it's not that old, it's very recent, as an extension to the Pharmaceutical Inspection Convention, which is PIC of 1970. So if we talk about PICS GMP audits, there are two main standard operating procedures that you can refer to in order to prepare yourselves for PICs audit. And what is that? SOP for inspection report of PICs, which is PI 013-3, and standard operating procedure for team inspections, which is PICS PI 031-1, to be referred for preparing to face PICs GMP audits. Now, before I go into the key core part of this session, I would like to walk you through a little about the history of PICs and the mission of PICs. So PICs history was founded by European Free Trade Association in October 1970. Now this EFTA is actually a legal treaty between countries. And what is the meaning of that? Legal treaty between countries means to say that if I get audited by one of the member country of PICs, the other country may accept that inspection report. So that's how the treaty works. Initially, there were only 10 member countries belonging to PICs scheme. But now there are at least 22 to 23 countries, and Pakistan, in fact, our draft is one of them who has applied for PICs membership. And hopefully in a year or two, probably a year and a half more, they'll be able to achieve being a member of PICs. What is the mission? Why PICs was there? Every organization has a mission. So the mission of PICs is to lead the international development, implementation, and maintenance of harmonized GMP standards and quality systems of inspectorates in the field of medicinal products. You may be asking a lot of questions, and I have seen in different forums that a lot of people would like to know that whether PICs only considers pharmaceutical preparations. It's not only pharmaceutical preparations, but there are also other preparations like, for example, biologicals, tissue cells, cultures, which is used for research and commercialization, blood products. In my upcoming slides, I'll be showing you, probably I do have it, a few of those different areas or sectors for which PICs is willing to come and do an audit for. So what is the benefit of PICs membership? As an example is our draft. Manufacturers cannot become a member because this membership is intended for the regulatory agencies in different countries. So the benefits of PICs membership. So once DRAP becomes a member of PICs, so what are the benefits if DRAP becomes a member? Number one is compliance for improvement. So there will be discipline between DRAP and the pharma industry. It will facilitate the export of medicines because if your manufacturing plant has a PICs accreditation, definitely it will be more acceptable to the other countries, especially in EU, US. Training, they will be benefiting for the different training seminars, and they will also be included in joint inspections. Involvement with developing international GMP, so whenever there are going to be some revisions on the policies or SOPs, so DRAP will become a member, a part of that in formulating those policies. And of course, it will facilitate the MRAs and ECs. EC stands for mutual recognition agreement between countries, and the environmental controls for which needs to be in place. So why should an agency apply to PICs? So here I'm not referring to a manufacturing company. Here I'm referring to DRAP especially. Why should an agency apply to PICs? Because it will strengthen the GMP inspectorate and regulatory standards. All those professionals relating to, all those regulatory professionals who have been practicing for the past 10 or 15 years, you may have seen a lot of difference from that time and this time. DRAP is getting up towards the PICs standards. And in order to gear up, so they have to also undergo certain trainings. And they have to regularize and harmonize whatever standards that they have for conducting any audit. So if you really want to prepare for the audit, any audit, I would suggest that go to PICs GMP guidelines, fulfill all those standard requirements and guidelines. That would be the best way for you to prepare. To participate in the development of new and improved ways to inspect the industry, yes, DRAP will be trained, not like before, whenever they enter your facility, the next thing in mind is, okay, how am I going to fail this company? So now this kind of mindset and mentality will be changed. To improve its own quality systems through the assessment and reassessment procedure, before there was no such SOP for how they're going to assess and reassess whatever inspection reports that they have done. Now there will be proper SOPs for DRAP as well, to cooperate and find common solutions in the GMPs, along with more than 46 authorities and 5 continents. And most of all, why we have to be a part of PICs is because we are not alone on this planet. So we should not work on isolation. We should learn how to coordinate, how to collaborate with different agencies in different countries. So yes, these are the different guidance, recommendations, SOPs that you can refer to while preparing for any PICs audit. One is the PICs GMP guide, which is similar to EU GMP guide. The only difference is the PICs GMP guide mainly focuses on risk management, quality risk management. PICs GMP guide for blood establishments, these are for the blood products. PICs guide to good practices for the preparation of medicinal products in healthcare establishment. This is where all pharmaceutical manufacturers should focus on and should refer to. Validations. I would like to mention here that when you talk of PICs audit, there are 3 main focus of PICs inspectorates. 1 is on data integrity, 2 is on validation, and 3 is on quality risk management. So these are the 3 main focus when they come and do an audit in your facility. So validation of aseptic processes is another guide that you can refer to. Inspection of isolator technology. This is in cases of vaccines and biologicals. Quality systems for inspectorates. Validation of computerized systems. PICs aid memoir on assessment of QRM implementation, which is PI 038-1. And PICs recommendation on risk-based inspection planning, which is 037-1. Recently, there was a quality risk management seminar held in Ramada Hotel. So they were focusing more on both PICs, PI 038-1 and PI 037-1. So now let's come and understand, when you talk of inspection, how should a manufacturer behave? How should the manufacturer consider this inspection? So there are 3 key audit principles. Number 1, assess manufacturers according to regulatory requirements. It all boils down to what are those regulatory requirements. So when we talk of regulatory requirements, and if you want to know about DRAP, DRAP is an agency that will refer to the PICs GMP guidelines. So if you have to prepare yourselves, you have to refer to the PICs GMP guidelines. Systematically and objectively collect and analyze sufficient relevant evidence to allow the auditor to make an assessment of the manufacturer's conformance with the requirements. Now you have to keep in mind that when you are facing a GMP inspection, especially with international authorities, you have to be willing to show them what they ask for. You should not keep the things hidden from them, because they know how to track it. So once they track it and they find out that you are not telling them the right thing, then that would be the end of the story. So it's best that you do not hide anything from the auditor. Whatever you have, you should show them. if there is any objection or deficiencies noted, there's always a CAPA to do. So do not be afraid to show whatever you have whenever the auditors comes and ask you. And of course, to report non-conformances observed during the audit. Now, when we talk of types of quality audits, this is not moving. Okay. So there are 3 types of quality audits that we always do in a pharmaceutical sector. One is what we call the internal audit. So internal audits are what you conduct yourselves within the organization. So these are in the form of self-inspection audits and internal audits. So it's best that for your internal audits, you should follow the process the way that any PICs inspectorate would do their own audit. So that would be a practice for you and your team. External audits, we always face that, especially the draft GMP audits, ISO audits, environmental audits. All these are known as the external audits. They are conducted by regulatory agencies or third-party auditors. Then we have what we call unannounced audits. And these unannounced audits are conducted, as the word implies, these are conducted without prior notice to assess the company's readiness for audit. So unannounced audits can be in the form of mock audits. And it also happens if an organization or company is found to be having such critical non-conformances, or they are manufacturing substandard or adulterated drugs. So an unannounced audit may happen coming from the regulatory agency. So these are again a few examples. If you talk about internal audits, external audits, unannounced audits, so what is it focused on? It's focused on either a GMP audit, which is good manufacturing practices audit. So this ensures that the manufacturing of a pharmaceutical product meets the required quality standards, or it can be a GCP, good clinical practices audit. This is an audit that ensures that the clinical trials are conducted ethically in compliance with regulatory requirements. Or we have what we call GLP, which is good laboratory practices audit. This is an audit that ensures that the laboratory tests and studies are conducted in compliance with the regulatory requirements. So now let's come to the key topic of our today's session. So there are certain classifications. Whenever a deficiency is observed, there are classifications. So it's not just that they will start writing down all the observations and everything is treated equal. No, it isn't. So there's certain classification given, and you can refer to the PICS guideline 040-1. So coming to the first classification, which is known as critical deficiency. So what's a critical deficiency? It is a deficiency which has produced or leads to a significant risk of producing either a product which is harmful to the human or veterinary patient, or a product which could result in a harmful residue in a food-producing animal. Or a critical deficiency also occurs when it is observed that the manufacturer has engaged in fraud, misinterpretation, or falsification of products or data. So this is where data integrity mainly applies. I will be sharing and giving you examples of both critical deficiency and major deficiency in my upcoming slides. Now, what is major deficiency? So first is the critical deficiency classification. Second is what we call a major deficiency classification. What is a major deficiency? It means it has produced or may produce a product which does not comply with its marketing authorization, or if you're doing a clinical study, clinical trial authorization, or product specification, pharmacopoeia requirements, or dossier. So that's why DRAP has been asking, had given a notification since way back, if I'm not wrong, 2012, that you need to convert all your in-house specifications to pharmacopoeia specifications if it's in pharmacopoeia. So if you have to face the PICs audit, you have to consider this before going into entering into a PICs audit. Major deficiency does not ensure effective implementation of the required GMP control measures. It indicates a failure to carry out satisfactory procedures for release of budget or failure of the authorized person to fulfill his or her duties. So a very good way of explaining this point is when you are going to release your batches, and again, this is under the draft requirements, who should be the authorized person to release the batches? Who should be giving the warranty? So you have what we call your DML, your drug manufacturing license. And in your DML, you have the production manager approved and your QC manager approved. So either the QC manager or QA manager should be the authorized person to sign all the batch release certificates. Now, the third classification is what we call other deficiency. So what falls under other deficiency? A deficiency that is not classified as either critical or major, but indicates a departure from GMP. So for other deficiencies, you may say that these are some of the mistakes that you do, which is not in accordance with GDP, good documentation practices. And the last classification is what they call comments. So comments is one of minor discrepancies, are usually not formally considered deficiencies, but are brought to the attention of the manufacturer as comments. So comments is like, okay, comments is like a general recommendation of PICs.
ये वाला वो उसके लिए अजीम अनवर के
Yes, please.
ये इसका डिलीवरी
May I continue? Yes. So now let me share with you examples. What are a few examples of critical deficiency as classified by PICs? A critical deficiency is a serious situation that could result in regulatory action being considered. So if you're not going to comply with those critical deficiencies, definitely you will never get the PICs accreditation. So what are those few examples? Number one, lack of sterilization validation. So if you are a manufacturer of sterile preparations, it's very important that you need to have all your testing methods validated or your sterilization procedures validated, especially if you're doing a terminal sterilization process. Lack of adequate control measures resulting in an actual or significant risk of cross-contamination above the level of health-based exposure limit in subsequent products. Cleaning validation requires you to mention your health-based HEOBL limits especially in your sterile products when you're doing a cleaning validation. Evidence of gross pest infestation relevant to all manufacturers. So you see, what happens normally, for which I have experienced in the past, the time when the auditors come, that's the time that the fly comes inside the area. No matter what kind of preparation you do, something happens. So this is considered a critical deficiency of PICs. They don't take it lightly. They take it very seriously. Falsification or misinterpretation of analytical results or records. So again, how you're going to interpret the results that you have gathered for all your analytical test procedures. That's very important. So that is why training of your analysts is required. and they need to have the training certificate for all your analysts. Failure to ensure the quality and or identity of starting materials. At times we try to skip the API complete testing. Now it's very important that we have to have a justification if we are not doing the complete testing of our APIs. Impurities, if it's in pharmacopoeia, if there is a requirement for impurities testing, you have to do that, and you have to do for all types of impurities. If the pharmacopoeia does not require for any impurities testing, then you have a good justification to say that I am not doing the residual solvent or the impurities test as per the pharmacopoeia requirements. No master batch documents relevant. This is again relevant to all manufacturers. Absence, falsification, or misinterpretation of manufacturing and packaging records. Normally, there's a lot of gaps when it comes to DPRs. So packaging records is something that PICs do focus on. The sources of your packaging, like for example, from where do you source out your vials? We are talking about here mainly the primary packaging. Your aluminum foils, your vials, your stoppers, your bottles, your seals. So you need to make sure that the sources of those primary packaging materials are assessed and approved. Water system for sterile products are not validated. Whatever water treatment system you have, you make sure that at the time of installation, you should have all the complete qualification documents available with you. HVAC system for sterile products not validated. It's I would like to point it out here that for you to do an air balancing test or a dope test is not validation. Okay, those are just the tests that you have to do on a regular basis. But complete testing and validation of the HVAC system is needed. Grossly unsuitable premises, so that there is a highly or likely risk of contamination. Again, cleanliness of the area is very important. So that's why the cleaning procedures, the kind of disinfectants that you use, the frequency of the fumigations that you do, you need to have a proper SOP for that, and as well as validation. Now I share with you some examples of major deficiency. What are those which can be considered as major deficiency? Number one, lack of validation of critical processes for low dose or high potency products, particularly in the sterilization processes for sterile products. So all the critical processes of your production, you have to first identify what are those critical steps, what are those critical processes involved in my tablet manufacturing, in my capsule manufacturing, in my sterile manufacturing. Those critical steps at least should be validated. No or grossly inadequate air filtration to minimize airborne contaminants could be critical. If possible, contaminants are a safety concern and critical for sterile medicines. So you do know it very well that the purpose and the importance of having area classification. So area classification in those critical processes, especially for sterile manufacturing, should be ensured. These are more of the examples: missing or ineffective control measures to provide adequate confidence that cross-contamination will be controlled within the health-based exposure limit in subsequent products. Could be critical if resulting cross-contamination has or is likely to exceed the HBEL limits. So for HBEL limits, again, there is a guideline that you can refer to, the ISPE guidelines for HBEL limits, especially when you do the cleaning validation. Drainage, there is what we call the GMP drains, and most companies, especially the old facilities, do not have the GMP drains. Holes, cracks, spilling, these are the normal things, you know, for which should not, you know it very well, you know, whosoever is working in pharma industry. Design of your manufacturing area that does not permit effective cleaning. When you are designing a certain facility, including the windows, the walls, you have to think that what design you have to put in to build in, wherein you can do the cleaning easily, or it does not gather dusts. Insufficient manufacturing space that could lead to mix-ups. I have seen a few companies, wherein the room is as big as a washroom and there is a machine standing over there. So that is a big question mark, as far as PICS is concerned, and this can lead to critical observation. No raw material sampling area for medicine manufacturers. It can be classed as major or others. Sanitary fittings not used on liquid and cream manufacturing equipment. Still, these exist, especially in the old manufacturing facilities. They think that the sanitary fittings are of no importance, but yes, it is of importance when it comes to PICS. Stored equipment not protected from contamination. You need to have an SOP, as in how are you going to store your washed tools and equipments, and where do you store them? So you need to have a proper storage for that. Individuals in charge of QC production not qualified by education, competency, training, and experience. So this is, everybody knows, you have to refer to the job requirements, that as far as production is concerned, he or she should be a pharmacist, having at least 10 years of experience as a production manager. And if you are not a pharmacist, you are a chemist or a biotechnologist or a microbiologist, then it can be acceptable only if you have more than 15 years of experience in the same field. And same thing applies for QC manager. You need to be a pharmacist having 10 years experience, if not in other sciences like chemist, microbiologist, then you need to have at least more than 15 years of experience in QC. Inadequate initial and ongoing training and or no training records. See, this is very important because most organizations, most companies feel that employees do not need trainings. So the kind of training that we are referring here to is technical trainings, yes, but also the soft skill trainings. So the trainings are very important. It should be a frequent activity. Cleaning procedures not documented or no cleaning records. Production equipment cleaning procedures not validated. These are the common gaps or mistakes of any pharma company. Incomplete testing of raw materials. Some companies say, oh, we do a skip testing. So if you think that you are capable of doing a skip testing, then you have to show all the evidences, all the justification as to why you're not performing complete testing. Your test method should be validated, of course. Complex production processes for non-critical products are not validated. All types of production that you do within your facility should have a validation of the process. Unapproved, undocumented changes to master batch or equivalent documents. So there is what we call a change document. So make sure that you issue a change document whenever you make a slight changes. Like, for example, a person has left and now you have to change the name of that person in that particular document. So for that, you can just raise a change document. Deviations from instructions not approved. A lot of companies do plan deviations. Now, plan deviations, even if you do that, you need to have a timeline. For how long are you going to have this plan deviation? Is it a temporary plan deviation or is it a permanent plan deviation? No proper release for supply procedures. Product rework without proper approval. Now, rework should be avoided as much as possible, but if you do it for certain reasons, then you need to have the proper CAPA for it. No system procedures for handling complaints or return goods. This is a lot of gaps in most of the companies because if you're dealing with the distributors, so you need to have an SOP between the manufacturer and the distributor as to how are you going to handle those complaints coming from your external customers. Inadequate testing of packaging materials. This refers to the primary and secondary packaging materials. No ongoing stability program and or stability data for all products. Insufficient lighting in production or inspection areas. Again, There is a guideline that refers to the lux requirement for each area. What is the lux requirement when you're doing a blending? What is the lux requirement when you're doing filling? What is the lux requirement when you're doing packaging or sealing? The containers from which samples have been taken are not identified. The temperature of critical temperature controlled storage areas not monitored and alarmed. It may be monitored in most companies, but there's no alarm system. So please kindly check if you have an alarm system in place. If not, then you need to have an alarm system. Inadequate change control system. This is still a big gap in the pharma industry. People are still learning on how to do it and how to implement it. Inadequate deviation system. Either you don't report the deviation or you don't close the deviation. So these are two important things. Make sure that you report the deviation and you close the deviation. No investigation into alarms and temperature excursions for deviations from storage or transport requirement. Now the auditors know it very well that it's not possible that you will not have any failure in your alarm system. At least in a year, once in a year, you will be having a failure in your alarm system. So make sure that you do the proper investigation and CAPA. So next is, now how should a company prepare prior to a PICs inspection? Now this prior part somehow covers the PICs inspectorate before coming to any manufacturer or before coming to any pharma. So a lead inspector is assigned. Normally the panel consists of 2 to 3 members. Inspection team is selected by the PIC. Technical specialists are included on team depending on what products they have to audit for. Then the company is notified that these are the following inspectors who will be coming to conduct an audit in your facility. Before they come, the manufacturer have to submit the SMF. Now PICS has a guideline on how to prepare SMF. So make sure that your SMF fulfills all the PICS requirement for preparation of SMF. Submit it to PICS, and then they're going to evaluate it, and then they're going to form the panel of inspectors. SMF, complaint recalls, testing failures, marketing authorizations, all of these will be reviewed at the time of audit. Lead inspector prepares inspection plan, and they intimate it to the relevant company. And then the inspection starts. So what happens once the inspection is done according to their plan? So what happens next after that? The inspection team is going to have their own discussion, and then an interim inspection report is prepared. So in this interim inspection report, all the deficiencies noted, critical, major, and others are mentioned. There will be an exit interview with company. We call it the closing meeting. Attendance sheet will be completed. There will be an attendance sheet issued. Interim inspection report then will be provided. And a written response will be requested from the company within 4 weeks. Objective evidence assessed. So once you reply after 4 weeks, then again it will be assessed by the lead inspector. If all your responses are found to be satisfactory and okay, then the inspection will be closed out and a final inspection report will be sent to the company. If response is not okay, then your response will be forwarded to an independent committee for their appropriate action. Now, please take note when we say appropriate action, it does not mean to say that you are going to be issued a non-GMP compliant letter or report. No, they don't do that. But they will simply send you regrets that you are not entitled for the PICS GMP accreditation till those observations are replied and responded satisfactorily. Okay, so why you need to go for PICS? What's the fun? Why not go for WHO? So there are certain benefits for a company to prepare and try to acquire a PICS audit. Why? It is essential for PICS to maintain good relations with industry as the manufacturer being the heart of the GMP process. Reduce duplication of inspections, definitely, because if you would like your products to be marketed in those countries, which is a PICs member, a group of panel will come and do an audit in your facility, and that particular report can be shared with the other PICs member countries. So you are doing a cost saving here because you are only going to spend once for the inspectors, and that same report can be used in other countries. Export facilitation, including to non-PICs countries also will help you out because you know the reputation of the company will be enhanced. Market access will increase. Enhanced transparent inspection standards, there will be consistency of inspection. So once you face the PICs audit, so you are confident enough now that yes, now I can face any other audit coming from any international agency. So that is a confidence building factor. Reliable quality of medicines will be available easily locally. DRAP will be more than happy to give you a fast registration once you have the PICs accreditation. And yes, what are the further benefits? PICs membership relating to the regulatory agency especially provides benefits not only to the applicant regulatory authority, but also to the medicine manufacturing industry, and of course to the consumers, patients of the country involved. All will benefit by a proper foreign inspection cooperation, and definitely it will save your resources. So that's all for now, and I'm open to any questions. I'll try my best to answer your questions as much as I can.
Thank you so much, Ms. Maria. There's a question from Sania Sumro. How to get prepared by yourself for any audit for come up the conformity?
How you prepare the audit to come up with the non-conformity? Can you show me the question, please?
Last one.
How to get prepared by yourself for any audit for come up the conformity. Now, why we have certain guidelines? We have guidelines because this is how you're going to prepare yourselves. You have to refer to the GMP, PICs GMP guidelines, may be relating to the personnel, may be relating to the organization or premises, may be relating to your production and processes, may be relating to your documentation. So it's all mentioned there. So before your QA has to be the lead, your QA has to be on top of it. QA has to prepare all the functions and the company, the facility to face different types of audits. So this is how the best you can prepare yourselves. Any more questions?
After we are studying that from employer certificate, I will not report.
Okay, I will send you the guidelines for it. I don't have it with me currently, but I will, who is this asking? Taya? I will, if you drop your email address so that I can then email you the LAX guidelines.
Any other questions?
Any questions from, I do believe that Sami Pharmaceuticals are here. Do you have any further questions? Are you preparing? Are you planning to prepare yourselves for PICs audit?
Yes, we are planning for the PICs audit as well as we are also planning for the WHO inspection. So it was very good learning opportunity, and thank you very much for all the things, and we will keep in touch with you.
Sure. Sure. If you have any questions, I'm open to your questions. You see, there's a difference with PICs and WHO. Your WHO will always be triggered to your dossier product application, right? PICs do not need any product application, and you cannot do things both at the same time. So you have to prioritize, either first you go for WHO audit or you first go for PICs audit.
Yeah, WHO pre-qualification. Yes, we are through bioequivalence studies with this center here in Pakistan.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is one of the things, bioequivalence studies is actually now, that is very much needed if you go for international audits.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Maria, I have a question. Describe your experience with data integrity and how you address data-related issues during audit.
Data integrity should actually comply with the good documentation practices, first of all. Experiencing data integrity happens mostly when it comes to all your manual documentation. Because in manual documentation, when you are preparing a documentation, what I have experienced in the past, either the document is not dated, and if it is dated, it is not signed by those appropriate or approved level of authority. And if it is signed, I give an example, an SOP, for example, standard operating procedure, everybody signing on the same date. So that comes under data integrity too. If your systems are mainly automated, so data integrity will be minimized only because you can easily track through audit trails. But for manual documentation, that is where the critical observation comes when you talk about data integrity. So whosoever is preparing documentation, he or she should be well versed in reading and writing. Whatever he or she is writing, he should also understand, because if you're just writing something for which you do not know what you're writing about, so you cannot identify what is the mistake in it. So the person who's writing that particular document should also have the knowledge. So that's very important.
Any other question?
Okay, I think if everyone is fine, and please also share Lux level guidelines. Farooq is asking for it. Okay, we will note down all those.
What can be the criteria for the skip testing of raw material?
What can be the criteria for skip testing of raw materials? Now, when you say of skip testing, what particular test parameter you want to skip? For example, skip testing applies to all the products. You cannot apply it for sterile preparations because that is something that, it's not easy to justify. But for your non-critical products, you can apply the skip testing, but skip testing, depending on what testing parameter you want to skip. All testing parameters, which is stability indicating parameters, you cannot skip that. Other than the stability indicating testing parameters, yes, you can skip it, but then you have to give an evidence that for the last, let's say, 100 batches or 50 batches, the test results are consistent. If you have that history with you, then well and good. So you do not just go into skip testing, shortcuts. We should never do any shortcuts, because for any shortcut that you do, the auditor will always question you that why you're not performing this particular test. Now, if you talk about impurities test, let's say, for example, you have tested the first 3 API batches, but you want to skip it in the 4th batch. No, that is not acceptable. Impurities test, I know how expensive it is, but that is not called skip testing. If you want to mention that I want to do the test in every alternate batch of this particular raw material, for example, and I'm talking about impurities, you make sure that your API manufacturer is able to provide you their own impurities test report. So with that, you can use it as a justification, as an evidence that I am not testing my API on every batch, but I'm doing it on alternate batches, because I do get the impurities test report from my manufacturer too. So, but you need to have an SOP for it, and you need to validate it. Without validation, your justification is not enough. Is there any checklist for preparing PICs audit? Yes, there is a checklist for that. In my earlier slide, I have mentioned to you 031-1 and 013-1, PI. Those are the references that you can go to. PICs do have an audit checklist. How to address human errors, as it is very common to assign all kappas to human error, and training is the solution. How to address human errors? There's the only best way to address human errors. Number one, you make sure that you hire the right person. So when we say hiring the right person, the qualified person and experienced person for that job. And of course, training, because learning is a continuous process. So internal trainings for SOPs, for good documentation practices is very important. You have to keep doing that. Supervision is very important too. Review of documents is very important. Whosoever is signing in the document for review and approval, the reviewer should also be reviewing the document correctly, because ultimately, if I'm an auditor and I'm going to audit your document, I'm not going to ask the one who prepared the document. I'm going to ask the one who has reviewed and approved the document. So you make sure that the approval authority and the reviewer authority knows what he or she is doing. What's this? Is it possible to have a manufacturer who does not perform impurity tests, and we have to perform in place of him to qualify the material as per USP or BP or our specification? As I've mentioned before, you know, when you are testing an API or a finished product, if your pharmacopoeia requires you to perform impurities tests, then you need to do it. And if you talk of impurities tests, if there are 5 impurities, 10 impurities, then you have to perform for all the impurities. If that particular pharmacopoeia is not asking you, requiring you to perform the impurities test, then it means to say you need not do so. I hope I have answered your question. What's her name? Shokar? Shakir. Yeah. Can testing of bulk product testing be considered as finished product testing? Of course not. There are certain tests that you do on your bulk, but you have to do the complete testing at your finished product. So bulk testing, yes, you need to do. That is what we call your in-process test. And finished product testing, definitely still you need to do that. Would you share an environmental monitoring for non-sterile manufacturing area reference? Yes, I will do. Kindly note it, please. Huh? LAX guideline and this environmental monitoring for non-sterile manufacturing area. Thank you, Kamran. And yes, who else? Thank you so much for your questions, and I hope that I am able to answer your questions well. We have at least, I guess, 2-3 minutes more to entertain your questions. Okay, fine. So I think my colleagues here are telling me that, Maria, now it's time to close the session because your time is over. So thank you so much, everybody, and look forward to meeting you again.
Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this webinar. Please fill this our feedback form so we can disperse your certificates. And also, please suggest whatever topics you want for our webinar series. We will try to deliver to you. Please send your feedback as soon as possible. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Maria, for your time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.